Okay, so if you're a professional trying to build a brand, you're already making content. We all are. But here's the real question. Are you just making it, or are you actually engineering it? That's the powerful idea behind something called content intelligence, and that's exactly what we're going to break down today.
Right off the bat, you've got a fundamental choice to make. Are you a reach optimizer? Someone who's just chasing likes, jumping on whatever's trending that day? Or are you an expert brand builder, somebody who is methodically, carefully building a real reputation? For anyone creating content today, this is pretty much the first and most critical question you have to answer.
Yeah, the source material does not mince words here. This quote, it really sets the stage for a much more serious, a much more strategic approach. It's basically a direct challenge, right? It's asking us to move beyond just chasing that fleeting attention and to start building something that lasts, a real reputation as a thought leader.
So let's really dig into what this choice means. It's that classic dilemma. Do you want to be an influencer whose main focus is just raw reach, or a thought leader who's focused on building a durable, expert brand? Because these two paths, well, they look completely different in practice.
And when you put them side by side, the contrast is just stark. The reach optimizer is totally reactive. They see hot news, they jump on it to get followers. Simple as that. But the expert builder, they're systematic, they're purposeful. They're focused on genuine innovation to spark real intellectual curiosity. The difference is absolutely fundamental. One path builds you a temporary audience, the other builds you lasting authority.
Okay, so let's say you've picked your path. You want to be the expert. So how do you actually do it? How do you make that jump from just creating random content to truly building authority? Well, the answer lies in the systematic process that the source calls content intelligence.
And here is the core idea. This is not about guessing what might work or following your gut. It is a systematic, data-driven framework. And that word, engineering, is the most important one on the screen. You're not just running another marketing campaign, you're basically running an intelligence operation to build your entire strategy.
So how does this actually work? Well, the framework is broken down into 3 distinct phases, and it's inspired by a research method called grounded theory, which is really just a fancy way of saying you let the data tell you the story. You build your insights from the ground up, instead of starting with your own biases.
The progression here is everything. You start with a really wide lens in phase 1, just getting a feel for the landscape. Then you zoom way in during phase 2 to form hypothesis and really get the details. And finally, in phase 3, you solidify everything. You lock it all into a complete, data-backed theory that becomes the absolute backbone of your expert content.
So, in phase 1, your entire goal is to map the territory. You use these data analysis techniques that work kind of like a heat map for conversations. They show you what people are actually talking about, where the big themes are, and maybe most importantly, where they aren't. It's all about listening to the data before you even think about speaking.
Now, in phase 2, we go deeper. The goal here is to develop your unique point of view. You're using methods that analyze the meaning behind the words. You're not just seeing what topics are out there, but you're finding the hidden debates, the tensions between them. This is how you go from just mapping the landscape to finding your specific, unique angle inside of it.
And finally, phase 3. This is where you pressure test your whole theory. You use advanced AI to validate your narrative against enormous amounts of data. You're essentially asking the AI, hey, based on everything out there, does my unique perspective actually hold up? This is what makes sure your expert content isn't just an opinion. It's a data-driven, totally defensible position.
Now, you're probably thinking, wow, this sounds incredibly complex. And you know what? You'd be right. It used to be, but this is where modern AI, and we're talking specifically about large language models, has completely changed the game.
Just take a look at this slide, because it really shows you the before and after. See those messy diagrams up top? That was the old way, a complicated manual process with a human desperately trying to make sense of it all. But that clean flow at the bottom, that's the new LLM-powered framework. And the chart on the right says everything. The new approach is way up in that top right corner. It's better in terms of scale, and it's easier for us to interpret the results. It's a win-win.
So this is the big shift, right here. We're moving away from a slow, manual, labor-intensive process to a clean, end-to-end automated system. The AI helps generate the taxonomy, it helps classify the content, and suddenly this incredibly powerful framework is accessible and scalable for the first time ever.
Okay, so let's bring this all back home. We've talked a lot about the how, the data, the models, the phases, but what's the actual payoff? Why go through all this? How does this data-driven process actually translate into real-world influence and authority?
Well, the payoff is huge. You don't just walk away with a list of blog post ideas, you build a truly unified narrative, a consistent story. You clearly identify who the key players are in your space. You create a sharp organizational positioning strategy. It becomes a repeatable engine for thought leadership, the very foundation for all of your strategic communications.
And this right here really gets to the heart of it. You see, content marketing is the campaign you run. But content strategy, the kind that's powered by this level of intelligence, that's what makes sure your campaign actually wins. It's the difference between just doing the work and knowing, with confidence, that the work you're doing is building your brand and establishing you as a true expert.
So, we'll end on this thought. For anyone out there with data skills, the whole opportunity has shifted. You now have the tools to move way beyond just optimizing for reach. So the question isn't just about what content you're going to create. The real question is, what new conversations, what new ideas, and what new understanding are you going to engineer? What will you choose to build?